Fellas, I'm going to start this video by saying I'm not homosexual. Maybe some of you guys are and that's good for you, but I'm going to be ranking MMA fighters, or specifically male MMA fighters, by their attractiveness. And the reason I'm doing this is because I've seen countless tier lists now of, MMA content creators doing tier lists of female fighters' attractiveness. And I feel like if I was to do something like that, it'd just be really overdone. So I'm just gonna do the video nobody's been asking for and do the video of the ranking MMA fighters, specifically males, on attractiveness. S tier being, for an MMA fighter, they are insanely attractive. You can throw them in thousands of modeling agencies. If you saw them, you wouldn't even think they're an MMA fighter. And then D tier is kind of being like, why are they on this list? You get the gist of it. Let me know your thoughts down below. I don't blame you if you don't. But I've got quite a long list here, so I'm not going to try and spend too long on each fighter. But yeah, let's get into it. The first fighter I've got on this list is Paulo Costa, and he's going straight in S tier. He managed to pull Tracy Cortez. Yeah, he looks great, does Paulo Costa. One of the best physiques in UFC, in what am I on about? I can't even speak today. In the UFC, as Paulo Costa. Maybe he's on the secret juice, but yeah, Paulo Costa, low body fat, absolutely jacked out of his mind. Still don't believe that he's not on steroids, or maybe it is just the secret juice. But yeah, the fact that he's been able to pull Tracy Cortez, if you saw this guy in a Brazilian bar, you wouldn't look at his face and think it's been beaten up for the past few decades. Definitely one of the more attractive MMA fighters. Definitely one of the best looking middleweights as well. The whole bullying Adesanya thing was pretty funny as well. So I'll put Paulo Costa in S tier. Definitely one of the most attractive MMA fighters in the UFC right now. So we're starting off with, an S tier fighter. I'm going to put Paulo Costa in S tier. I think a lot of you guys can agree. Pretty attractive. Paulo Costa S tier, let's go. Next fighter. And also, by the way, Paulo Costa's got pretty good style as well. I'll give him that. He has got decent style. It's not no Kamaru Usman style kind of thing. So I'll put him in S tier. Talking of Kamaru Usman, let's get him on this list. Where is he? Kamaru Usman. I'm going to put him in C tier. I don't think Usman's bottom of the barrel ugly. I wouldn't look at Kamaru Usman and think, listen, why is this guy on this list? He's bottom of the barrel ugly. But at the same time, I wouldn't look at Kamaru Usman and think, like, this guy's one of the most attractive fighters in the UFC. When I look at Usman, I just think of his welterweight title reign. But maybe people like his shiny head, because the amount of modelling agencies that have signed Kamaru Usman, it's actually crazy. I've seen Kamaru Usman modelling for so many different brands now. It's actually, I don't know who is signing this guy. And that's not to be offensive. That's not me saying, listen, he's ugly as shit. Why are you signing him? Personally, I don't know why. Maybe he's just got a deal going on with them. I don't know what's going on. But Kamaru Usman, personally, I put him in C tier. He's not ugly, but at the same time, I wouldn't look at him and think model. So I'll put him in C tier. Got that pretty clean look, shiny bald head, decent physique as well. He looks jacked. He looks like he's on EPO as well. Well, he doesn't look like he's on EPO, but he definitely looks like he's on some sort of steroids. I mean, have you seen his veins? Now, I don't actually think he's on steroids. I think he's just been blessed with genetics, unlike Paulo Costa. But I'll put Usman in C tier. Next fighter, I'm gonna go Jorge Masvidal. Now, here's the thing about Masvidal. If you were to rate Masvidal compared to guys like Paulo Costa, he'd be in like a C tier, D tier. But you've got to remember, this guy's nearly 40 years old now. And you compare Masvidal to the average 40-year-old man, and he's absolutely killing it when it comes to attractiveness. I'll put him in B tier. I'm not going to put him in A tier because, again, if you look at Masvidal after a weigh-in, he does kind of look like a greasy homeless man. The beard that's kind of overdone, the long hair. But like I said, in his prime in 2019, maybe I'll be able to bump it up to an A tier. But if we're talking about Masvidal nowadays, does look very drained, or at least he did in the UFC. What have I just done? Let's get that back to normal. Definitely looked a little bit drained. Can look greasy, but he would be able to pull all the 40-year-old women. Let's be honest. If you're a single mum and you're 40, I don't know why I said mum. If you're just a single 40-year-old woman, you're going to go for a guy like Masvidal over your average balding, obese, average stereotypical 40-year-old man. So I'd say Masvidal's doing pretty well to say he's in his 40s. In his prime, he might have been higher on this list, but right now I'll put Masvidal in B tier. Next fighter, I've got Alex Pereira. Now, I wouldn't say the MMA community look at Alex Pereira and think, yeah, that guy's extremely attractive, but at the same time, I wouldn't say anyone thinks he's ugly. You know what? I'll put him in A tier. You got to remember, again, Pereira's nearly 40 years old, but he looks clean, right? You look at Pereira back when he was in his glory kickboxing days, where he had the whole hair, when he actually had hair. He actually looked pretty good. I'm going to put Pereira in A tier. I wouldn't say he's on the same level as Paulo Costa, where you look at him and you think attractive. When you look at Paulo Costa, again, you just think of the left hook. But I wouldn't say he's ugly either. He's definitely in like the upper end of MMA fighters. Some people think he's cute. Personally, I think of the knockout artist first. I don't really pay attention to his looks first, but I've definitely got to include him in this list. I mean, if you're comparing him to the rest of the light heavyweight division like Magomed Ankalaev, Anthony Smith, he's definitely doing well for himself. And again, he's 40 years old. This isn't even prime when it comes to attractiveness. He's nearly 40. I don't know exactly how old he is, but he's nearly 40 years old. So to say he's doing well for himself, I'll put Pereira in A tier. Not model level. Actually, no, I'd say he's model level. I wouldn't mind signing Pereira to a modeling agency. But I wouldn't say he's Paulo Costa level yet. I'll put Pereira in A tier. Next fighter, Dricus du Plessis. Again, I'll put him in A tier as well. The thing about Dricus, there's not really any flaws you can pick up on. You can't look at Dricus and think that's a flaw. He's got a pretty decent physique. He's not jacked out of his mind like Paulo Costa, but he's got a pretty decent physique. Looks pretty clean. Chad Drew Dober jawline. Decent haircut. Got a nice accent as well. He's got the South African accent, which a lot of people tend to like. So for Dricus du Plessis, I'll put him in A tier. Just straight up in A tier, yeah. Not really any flaws about him. I'd definitely sign him to a modelling agency. I think he's already been signed by like a few clothing brands as well. Maybe I'm just making this up, but I could have sworn I saw Dricus modelling for a few clothing brands. But personally, listen, I'm going to put him in A tier. Not ugly, but yeah, definitely attractive for the average fighter, and he definitely pulls people back in South Africa. So I'll put Dricus in A tier. Next fighter, Tom Aspinal. Listen, I don't know where to... It's between D tier and C tier, right? But if we're talking Aspinal, he's definitely had a glow up. Like, you look at Aspinal back in 2020, he was a fat heavyweight. He had like a teenager perm going on. His facial hair was kind of terrible. He had this massive red nose, but he's definitely... improved his looks. He's put a lot more muscle on, shredded a bit of fat. His haircut's got way better. He's grown out his beard a lot better, or his goatee. His red nose has finally gone, even though this image, it kind of looks like it hasn't. So I'll put Aspinal right now. I'll put him in C tier. He's kind of one of those fighters that you look at and you think, why is he in this list? He doesn't really fit in with the rest of the guys. No one looks at Aspinal and thinks attractive. I don't think I've ever seen anyone say this guy's attractive. But you've got to picture this, right? He's in his, 30s, in the middle of, I wouldn't say he's not middle-aged yet. So I'm not going to, give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he's nearly old, because 30 is not really old. But you got to remember, like, if you see this guy in a bar, you've got Tom Aspinal, who's probably going to be in decent style. Maybe you don't think he's got good style after the press conference he had against Pavlovich, but he's filling out shirts. He's massive. He's a heavyweight, definitely the most attractive heavyweight on the roster. He's going to be filling out shirts. You're a 30-year-old single woman. You're going to be attracted to a guy like Aspinal. Maybe if you're basing it off the face alone, you wouldn't be. He's got one of the best chins, by the way. Look at Aspinal's chin. That's arguably better than Drew Dober's chin. But Aspinal himself, I'll put him in C tier. Yeah, same thing about Marty Fake Newsman. I don't think he's extremely attractive, but again, if you're a 30-year-old woman, you're going for him. So I'll put Aspinal in C tier. Next fighter, we've got Leon Edwards, the king of physiques. I'll put him in B tier. Yeah, the thing is, Leon Edwards, you don't look at him and think like extremely attractive. If you saw him walking down the street, you'd just think he's an average bloke. Do you know what I mean? If you saw his physique, then maybe he'd end up being like an S tier. If we're ranking physiques as an S tier, but if we're actually, I'll put him in A tier. I think he's above. I'm going to give him respect. I think he's above Masvidal, right? Because you've got to take the physique into account as well. He's got a really good physique. Obviously, the whole most aesthetic physique goes to Leon Edwards, so I'll put him in A tier for that. Face, again, there's not really any flaws you can take off it. He's got a pretty, clean beard. Not necessarily ugly. He's not extreme. He's not fully bald like Kamaru Usman. And the fact that he has got one of the best physiques in MMA, that's definitely going to boost him up a point. So I'll put Leon Edwards. I'll put him in A tier. Not Paulo Costa level, but he can definitely be signed by a few modeling agencies. I can definitely see a company like Nike signing him, or Adidas. And don't come at me for the pronunciations of those companies. Listen, just get on with it. But yeah, Leon Edwards, I'll put him in A tier. Next fighter, Raul Rosas Jr. Oh, never mind. That's Conor McGregor. We'll get onto him in a second. We'll go Raul Rosas Jr. Now, listen, he's 18 years old. I'm not going to sit here and start shitting on him for his looks. I will put him in D tier, but again, we're comparing him to the upper end of attractiveness when it comes to fighters. So I'm not going to sit here and start shitting on him for his looks. But Raul Rosas Jr., I'll put him in D tier compared to these guys. He's actually got a decent haircut. I mocked Aspinal for having the curly hair, but I actually kind of liked Raul Rosas Jr.'s, I don't know if it's a perm, I'm pretty sure it's natural hair, but I kind of like his haircut, and he's got time. to mold into these looks. Listen, we talked about Aspinal having a glow up. Maybe that's what Raul Rosas Jr. is going to do. And listen, I'm not going to start hating on him. I really liked his knockout that he got in his last fight. But yeah, he's got a lot of years. He's only 18 years old. He's got a lot of time to kind of improve his look. So I'll put him in D tier for now. But there's definitely proof that can be made. Good job, lad. 18 years old and being signed by the UFC, by the way, is insane. I think he actually got signed when he was 17, so fair play. Definitely further than most 17-year-olds in life. But attractiveness-wise, not ugly. But I'd say he's in D tier for now compared to these guys. Next fighter on the list. Oh, I've just moved the entire tier list. That's definitely not what I wanted to do. Next fighter on the list, I'll just go straight to Conor McGregor because you already saw me hint at him. Conor McGregor, I'm going to put him in B tier. Now, here's the thing about McGregor. If we're ranking McGregor in his prime, he might even be in S tier. The women, right? I don't know if it's just me that saw this, but the women were going mad for Conor McGregor. The women were going crazy for Conor McGregor in his prime. The way that he spoke elegantly, the success that he was having, and obviously his facial attractiveness, he was an S tier. But if we're talking about McGregor nowadays, I'm going to have to put him in B tier on the same boat as Masvidal. He's put so much weight on. He's not really looking healthy nowadays. You know, arguably taking steroids. He's built like a middleweight. Of course, the injury had to do with something. And to be honest, I think recently, these past few weeks, he's definitely bumped himself up to an A tier. But if we're taking account the year that he's had, right now, I'll put him in B tier. Yeah, McGregor's not been looking his best, but I'll put him in B tier for now. Back in the day, he was definitely higher up, but right now, listen, again, he's getting old. I'll put him in B tier, in the middle. Can still get signed by a few modeling agencies, but if you saw him walking down the street, your first thought wouldn't be attractive. So I'll put him in B tier for now. Next fighter, Alain Sterling. Again, I'll put him in A tier. He's kind of like Leon Edwards and Dricus. There's not really any flaws you can take from Aljamain Sterling. He's got shiny skin, doesn't have that bald head like Kamaru Usman, decent haircut as well, really clean beard, and he's, again, one of the best physiques in MMA. Everyone's talking about Leon Edwards' physique. What about Aljamain Sterling's physique? The guy looks jacked. The guy looks like he's got sub 0% body fat on him, so he's definitely doing well, definitely pulling women, and to be fair, he actually looks pretty... Like, if I saw this guy, and I didn't think he was an MMA fighter, and you saw him filling out a shirt, you'd actually think, you know what, fair play to this guy, looks fair... Well, I'm not going to say he looks attractive, but he looks handsome for a man. So I'll put Aljamain Sterling in A tier. Maybe even S tier soon. But right now I'll put him in A tier. Definitely one of the more attractive MMA fighters. You can tell he takes care of the way he looks. He's not just one of these scruffy fighters that goes around not cutting their hair, getting punched in the face, and looking like they've got broken noses like Mike Perry. But fair play to Mike Perry. He's doing this thing back in BKFC. But Sterling, A tier for now. Next fighter, Cody Garbrandt. I'm going to put him in B tier. I feel like if you're a 30-year-old woman in America and you're really into guys with tattoos, or to be honest, if you're just a woman who's into guys with tattoos anyway, Cody Garbrandt's your dream. A guy that's got a decent face, pretty attractive, decent physique as well. Well, compared to MMA fighters, it's a pretty average physique, but compared to the average guy, it's a decent physique, and he's absolutely covered in tattoos. So for that reason, if that's your type and you're a woman, he's probably S tier for you. But me personally, I don't really like... Now, this is just my opinion. I'm not going to say you're ugly, but I don't really like it when people like get tattoos around their neck. Kind of just looks like you're wearing a turtleneck all the time. I'm not a massive fan of it. I do think he's kind of overdone it on the tattoos, but yeah, I'll put him in B tier. There's definitely women back where he lives that, you know, fall for him, especially if you're a woman that likes tattoos. So for Cody Garbrandt, I'll put him in B tier for now. Definitely one of the more attractive bantamweights. And the final fighter on this list, Luke Rockhold. Yeah, he's going to have to... He's going to have to join Paulo Costa in S tier. I've been saying this, right? Paulo Costa versus Luke Rockhold at UFC 278. That must have been the most attractive fight in MMA. Luke Rockhold, say what you want about him, he could definitely get picked up by modeling agencies. I can definitely see him being an actor in a movie. There's, like, he is crushing it, right? To say that, compare him to men his age. He's way more attractive than most men his age. And you look at him, and that's the thing about Luke Rockhold. Even though former middleweight champion, used to be a great striker, the first thing people think when they look at, what's his name, Luke Rockhold, is attractiveness. And for that reason, you've got to put him in S tier. One of the most attractive fighters to ever enter the UFC. Back in the day, though, before he joined the UFC, he didn't look great. But when it came to the UFC, I don't know what happened. His beard, his jawline, his physique, he's kind of like a slightly less attractive Ryan Reynolds, and that's saying something for an MMA fighter. So I'll put him in S tier. Luke Rockhold, in my opinion, one of the most attractive men to ever enter the UFC. But that is my list of the most attractive male MMA fighters. Let me know your thoughts on the list. Was there any fighters I should have added? And what was your thoughts on the, the video idea? Am I just scraping bottom of the barrel video ideas? But yeah, let me know your thoughts on it, and thank you for staying through and watching this.